Right, you're watching the Daily Report. This particular evening, we're discussing matters of artificial intelligence and the revolution it has had in the media landscape. Roda Nyama is on the sign language interpretation. We do have Ken Bosira, as well as Michael Mishie and Mbugo Nganga. And Bosira, before the break, you are highlighting to us this whole shift when it comes to fact-checking. And also just pop up this, Mishie and Nganga, the sign language interpreter is curious. Will she be replaced? So buckle up for that. But then yes, Bosira.
Yeah, it's important. I just making that reference to when we had that unfortunate tragedy, national tragedy, when we lost our CDF. It was broken in the social media. But the legacy media did not break the story until they had verified and confirmed that this is it. I remember the frustration of many people saying that, why are they not breaking it? But they still waited. The anxiety notwithstanding, they still waited until they said, it has happened. It placed more context. It was not just breaking the news. There was a bigger story that was explained. So this is important, that as we're in the digital era, like you did mention, who is trained? Because if storytelling, you're a journalist, the ethics will remain. Because the ethics protect journalism. What you tell right, a fact is going to remain a fact. So what the media people need to, what we need to do as a media, it's a reality that we have to deal with, but now also carry along our audiences and teach them that this is who we are. And unless you do what we call more extensive media literacy, telling people this is a fact, this is what, and keep speaking to the people. If you use a certain kind of font in the newspaper, it should show your character, so that when somebody changes something small, they're able to say, this is not the newspaper X or the TV X or outlet X that I was looking at. So that presence of mind, you have to constantly do what we call engagement.
Right.
We now have, we're in an era when we are talking about digital and AI.
Yes.
We are talking about the audience first. The audience will tell you, tell me this story in this manner that I want it told. So you have to keep very engaged. And AI is going to help you know who your audience is and how you're going to engage them.
And Nganga, allow me to ask you this. I'll pick TikTok as one of the platforms that many people right now go to. I think at a certain point it was Twitter, but then most people go to TikTok. And Kenya has quite the number of people who are on TikTok, even in Africa and even globally.
Huge.
A very huge number. So that definitely goes to show you the kind of appetite. And he's definitely talking about even what the digital content creators who are not media trained, but then are definitely debunking on matters, news and different such like. But then as the legacy media, what should we be learning from these digital content creators on how they curate their content? Because they have their own following, and a number of people head there to check the news and see what is trending from them. Then what should the legacy media be borrowing from how these stories are told on such platforms?
They should not be borrowing. They should be in that space.
Okay.
So what is happening is, you see, the good thing with TikTok is it gives you stories depending on the length that you want. If you want 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds or longer. Legacy media houses, and this is something that we are even trying at the Nairobi Law Monthly, need to be in that space. Why? Because they have all these beautiful studios, they have all these young people they have employed, they have the news. They should be in that space, because you cannot say that we are too serious to play in this league, because that's where the audiences are.
Yes.
And if you look at the revenues for some of those content creators, it's enough to sustain them and even to make them fairly well off.
Yes.
So personally, I believe that that's a space that legacy media should be playing in more actively, and it should give people within its ranks more freedom and more space to experiment, so that they can see what works for them and what does not work for them. That said, we are members of the Kenya Editors Guild, and we met guys from TikTok in December.
Yes.
And they are verifying media houses so that if you place your content there, it gets higher viewership than if I'm just a one-man show content creator. So I would encourage media houses, sign up with TikTok. It's for your benefit. And then you start collecting revenue from all these shows. Because a media house can do 50, 20, 30, 100 clips in a day. So, but a single guy working from home can do at most 3.
Yes.
And then he has to go and do something else. So we are not leveraging, as media, we are not leveraging that space, and I think it's very important that we do. Yeah. Right. So coming to her job and whether interpreters will be there, for people who do interpretation, the best bet I would tell them is to start learning coding. Because you can replace the interpreter, but you cannot replace the person who is doing the coding for the interpretation. So if you want to do sign language codes so that she can have a job in 5 years, the person appearing on the screen can be a bot or an AI-generated person with facial expressions and hand expressions. But the person behind that AI-generated presenter has to do the coding. Yeah. Right. And that's what is happening in China. So they have someone actually. The most interesting thing about the Chinese news presenters is that the person who designs her clothes is very popular, because every day he dresses that AI presenter differently, and people start saying, I want a dress like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Nyamai, I hope you've copied that. Michelle, let's talk about regulation, and Busiro had started to mention about it. As definitely as a stakeholder in the media, and you definitely partner with different media organizations, even for your work. How should a regulation of artificial intelligence, we have established that there will be challenges in this adoption of AI and the whole tools, but then how should the regulation of it look like? And in the first place, should there even be any regulation of AI in media?
It's a difficult question because you've ended in media, but I'm not the biggest proponent of regulation of AI. Okay. It's way too soon. You have one apple and you want to teach people how to plant apple trees. I think that's very counterproductive. We are currently a net consumers of the technology. We consume more than we create of AI. So then we need to first accelerate how do we create. If we're going to now come up with regulations on how media houses should use the technology, that already impedes, in a sense, how media houses can build their own technology. You may want as TV47 to build your own translation bots. Maybe you want to have this segment in English and 10 other languages, but there's a regulation saying that you have to pass 6 levels of red tape and your solution will be ready in 3 years. There's someone who's going to do it in 2 days because they have access to data, they have tools, and they don't have the regulation. So I'm not for regulation, but already you have your practices, you have your code of ethics and everything else. That is sufficient enough. When the computer came out and Bosire now had to have someone shadow him to switch it on and off, Bosire didn't end up asking, do I need to regulate the computer? His code of ethics, the tools changed, yes. The quality of work improved, and the principles that guided his profession stayed the same. And I think that's the same thing we should do with AI. If it's a matter of, you have a tool that, yes, could be used in the wrong hands, but all tools could be used in the wrong hands. How do you ensure that while you're using this tool, you still uphold your code of ethics, your standards as journalists? And that should be sufficient regulation for the industry, because then that also allows you to experiment, to build your own tools. For your sign language interpreter, if regulation says you shouldn't replace people because of AI, I don't think you need regulation to say that. It would have a very negative outcome publicly if all sign language interpreters across the world, not just maybe in Kenya, but it becomes a trend where they're being replaced by bots that are doing this. Because now you have a question of accessibility and fairness and social good and justice that's been infringed upon.
Yeah.
We don't need to write a whole new regulation for that.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you agree? I mean, you sit at the helm of advisory on regulation of such matters, artificial intelligence in the media landscape. Do we have enough regulation? But then, as he says, we may not even need such regulation to say we need to do ABCD.
I think when you talk about regulations, it ties you, closes you into something. First, like Michi mentioned, the technology we are using, we are just consumers. We have not even developed our own capacity. So we should spend more time in encouraging that creativity, creating content, creating tools, creating platforms for ourselves. The baseline is that if you're in journalism, there will be the ethical underpinnings that will guide you on what is you're supposed to do. If you are a medic using AI, you know what are the parameters that you use. Yeah. If you're a researcher, you know what you can do. So what is important is that AI is just going to be a tool for us. And like they say, there's a cliche now in the market. Only those people who resist the changes in the new technology will be phased out. But the people who adapt and use it are going to find more opportunities for themselves. Just talking about regulation, because AI is very dynamic. Every day there's a new invention coming in. What would the practicality of trying to write regulation every day? Because you'll be literally seated on your desk and saying, this one has changed, this part has changed. It's not practicable. But if we have a wider ecosystem, says it is a reality that we have to do, but we have, as professionals, we have the basic things that define us, who we are, as a journalist, as a doctor, as a researcher, because that is what sits. And then once you put the don'ts and do's, then you kill the creativity. We are going to have to allow people to create, and then as we create, we context it, and knowing that what I created yesterday, tomorrow will not be the same, because it's a very dynamic sector. So I think the thing is to allow them, but also encourage this, what we call responsibility in being fidelity to your own professional calling. That's what will save us from those misinformations. And if I know this is wrong, I will tell you this is wrong. And I know I will explain and defend it using the ethical underpinnings. Right. That's what, for me, my take is. Regulation is just putting the cart before the horse and stifling whatever creativity that can come into the space.
Right. But on the flip side, yes, as much as he says, as much as AI would be changing every single day, as it stands, even for Kenyan laws, are there any gaps that exist when it comes to how consumers consume different forms of media, and even as the distributors, how they distribute this media? I mean, case in point, much as the Data Protection Act and how the intrusion of privacy and such like. Do you think that there are existing gaps that that we actually need to seal these loopholes?
I think there are huge gaps. Number one, because the technology comes before the law. So by the time the law is catching up, the technology has evolved. So for example, when we had the libel laws, then computers came. We had to change to Computer Misuse Act. But the same law in different form, but now the technology has changed. So there are huge gaps in that space. And if you visit the websites of credible newspapers, sometimes they ask you, click here to verify you are human. Or they give you like half a second, like maybe 5 seconds, trying to verify whether you are actually someone who exists. Or they tell you, click on these cookies to continue. The other issue that is very serious is the invasion of personal data. Because if you buy, like me, I sell my newspapers online. And in the past, I used to ask people for a lot of information. What if someone else comes and decides to either hijack that information and use it for their own purposes? So there is that risk that this information that people are giving online can be hacked and can be used to their detriment. For example, if you buy something online and you give your credit card and they tell you enter your password, the person who is selling you that product needs to assure you that your password is safe. But we live in the days of hacking.
Yeah.
How sure are you that this person has enough firewalls to protect the data that you have supplied to them? So we have real problems in terms of invasion of personal privacy, and also in terms of the technology going too fast ahead of the law.
All right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, allow me to wrap up this conversation, and I'll be listening to you. I'll start with you, Nganga, on your final thoughts and what you think as consumers, as distributors of media, need to rethink when it comes to this whole shift in the media landscape.
For me, this is the message I would want to pass, that AI is a friend. It is a tool. The way man invented the cutting tools and started cutting nyama, or the way we invented fire and we started cooking and our diets improved, is the same way we should view AI. This is a tool that is supposed to make life better. We should adopt it. Banks and airlines are adopting it, and their profitability has changed. Even companies like Kenya Airways, which used to report losses, when they use data, you can see now their profits are going up. Learn from the banks, because the banks were very good adopters, and learn from airlines and make AI your friend. The people with AI will prosper. The people who resist AI will perish.
All right. Mushi?
I think for consumers, it's just having the curiosity to fact check, to verify, to question. Don't believe a single source of truth, whether it's your legacy media, whether it's your digital platform. Always ask, why? Could it be true? Could it be wrong? Could it be told from a single perspective? I think that's a very important, critical skill to have for anyone. I think we have it, we all have it. There are times when someone tells you something and you get into doubt mode. And you dig deeper and you figure out it's either the truth or it was not the truth. So I think that's just a skill we will need to practice more as consumers, because AI is going to give us a lot more content that's going to be a lot harder to discern, is it AI or it's not AI. At the same time, this additional content is also going to be good, because now this content is being generated by people and it's probably helping them get an income. It's going to create new jobs, new types of jobs. It's going to boost industries to perform better. The only downside I would see to all of this is that as long as people choose to abuse the technology, and people would abuse with or without laws or regulations. So also obviously no regulation, but I think media houses in general just do need to start actively looking at how can they adopt AI into either the internal processes or into their distribution of news, but how can they do it and still do it as ethically as they were doing before. Legacy houses still have something that banks also have, which is trust. How do you change to a technology? How do you change to this new tune while still keeping the trust that you can tell someone this is live footage or this is a recorded footage from your archive and this is AI-generated content. But we are not changing the story. We want you to just have a new experience, an audiovisual experience or a visual experience or an auditory experience, but it's just to help tell the story better.
Yeah. I think I pick it from there that your believability, people can believe you. It's an asset that we need to tell people to trust you. But we are early adapters, we have to go with it, but there is an opportunity for media that we could do, especially in the era when we are talking about job losses, shrinking revenues. We could actually begin to create AI that within the media houses that are unique to you, that you can patent and make money out of it. Instead of laying out people, is that reorient and retrain and use them. Because like if you're in TV47, you come up with an AI tool that is unique to you. You patent it, you make money out of it, you use it for yourself and you can sell it. And this is where I see an opportunity for media. Let's not run away with it. It's a tool and it's the reality that we have to deal with. We have to think backwards, how do we harness it? And for me, I see an opportunity in creating within the media houses or spaces tools that work for us that we can also do coding and embed to have unique elements that we can use without laying people off.
Right. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, for your wise words. Ken Brosiro, he's the immediate Kenya Editors Guild Programs Officer, as well as a print journalist. Thank you very much, Michael Michi. He's a co-founder of Avast Technology, and Mbugua Nganga, Editor-in-Chief, Nairobi Law Monthly. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you also for tuning in, and as a consumer, also as a distributor of media in different media platforms out here. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you've learned a thing or two on matters media. I know a sign language interpreter has also learned. Who is Rhoda Nyamai? I'm yours truly, Stanley Jaringita. Have yourself a wonderful Wednesday evening.